so dark. All of these are things that we're not really accustomed to here in Southern California, although it can happen. And we are hearing that the National Weather Service is sending a survey team to Montebello now after what they say is a possible tornado. So, there are a lot of things that have to be monitored and checked. I know we see what appears to be a funnel cloud out there. We see the damage, but perhaps meteorologist Paul Viano can talk to us a little bit more about what actually classifies a tornado.
When the Weather Service sends a survey team out, and shockingly, I can't believe I'm talking about this here, having just moved here from Chicago, where they do get severe weather much more often, what a survey team will do is they want to see, one, what is the severity of the damage? Well, guess what? We have our chopper up right now. We can do our own site survey because we can see it better than they can on the ground. And two, they want to see this. They want to see whether all the damage is blown down in one direction, or if there's damage blown down in one direction, then 10 or 20 feet away there's damage blown down in the opposite direction, because that would denote rotation. A tornado is a rotating column of air. We get wind damage around here all the time. That's what's called straight line winds. Everything's moving west to east or north to south, and that can cause a lot of damage. A rotating column of air, which is a tornado, would cause damage. Let's say on one side of the street everything's blown this way, and then on the other side of the street everything's blown the opposite way. And just from the video we've seen, I would say we are 99.9% certain that this was some form of a tornado. Now, we may hear the word landspout thrown about because a landspout is easier to achieve. A landspout is typically a weaker tornado, not as strong. Well, you throw it in the most populated county in the United States, in an industrial area with lots of asphalt shingles, and even a weak tornado can become a dangerous phenomenon. And I mean, we're looking at our chopper. I'm looking at the bottom left. We're all watching this with you at home. This is not minor damage. There are holes in roofs. I saw a truck knocked over. We could see the debris field after the storm in a different bit of cell video that we've seen. That would be the back windshield probably blown out on 3 of those cars by some of that flying debris. Once again, buildings can be replaced. We can move stuff and redo roofs. I'm just hoping and praying that all of that debris that was lifted off of those buildings does not end up causing any injuries, or did not end up causing any injuries, because that's a lot of material that got moved in a very short notice. And like we've talked about, we don't do tornado drills around here. We don't know. We don't have basements to go into like they do in other parts of the country. That's the safest spot. Well, the majority of places here don't have basements. So what do you do? Most people probably couldn't answer that question correctly because we're out of practice. That would be a fence down on a car. That would be a large piece of metal right there. Now, is that something that was on the ground or something that was on the roof that is now on the ground? The back windshield of that car tells me it might have been something that came from the roof. There's another back windshield blown out. We're just going to go and there's pieces of wood strewn about. There's another piece of what looks like that same pole on the back of a truck and a car. There's another of all the people who might have been sitting in the car looking on their cell phones or walking around just before lunchtime. Actually, can we pan on top of that building that has the white water tower to this building, that building, but also the one to our left, from the vantage point of the camera to our left. Look at those pieces of metal that probably a little bit to the left of this, that looks like some of the wood, some of the subroof got pulled off. Just to the left of that, from the camera perspective, you can see pieces of metal that are no longer the shape that they were an hour ago. I don't think that piece of metal was bent an hour ago.
No, and Paul, so often when we see tornadoes, they're in areas, oftentimes the most severe damage is in mobile home parks and communities where these mobile homes just, fly. Well, this is a very large building. So to do this type of damage, we know that there was some very, very strong gust. Yeah. And we now know that the National Weather Service did put out a tweet. There have been reports of possible tornado damage in Montebello. In addition to the survey team heading to Carpinteria, they will also head to Montebello this afternoon to assess the damage there. So, you know, again, we were talking about last night, there were tornado warnings in Ventura County. Supposedly there was one that may have touched down off of Point Magoo. We do now want to bring in Miriam Braxton, who witnessed this possible tornado. Miriam, thank you so much for joining us here on KCAL. Give us an idea where you were and what you saw and what you heard.
So we're here located in Montebello, right off of Washington and Maple, and we were just about to take our lunch, because we take lunch about 11:30, and we heard a big bang, and we thought it was a car accident. That's often rare in this area because it's an industrial area, and we ended up walking out and saw this huge cloud of debris, this cloud of like trash, nails, roof pilings, and just a bunch of stuff that was flying everywhere and was honestly so scary to witness. It hit a couple cars just down, a couple units, and it destroyed some windshields and tires. My car as well got hit, and it was just really scary. I was thinking about all the different states that have places to hide when something like this happens, so we didn't know what to do. We hid under our desks.
Well,
it was very scary.
Now, Miriam, I have to ask you, you were not in the Royal Paper Box Company, were you? You were in a different building?
So we're literally right next to it. So we witnessed, let's say the Royal, what's it called? The
Royal Paper Box Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're right next to them.
Wow. And Miriam, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you a little bit more about the weather at the time of this. Did you notice, was it very dark? Was there a lot of rain before you heard that loud crashing sound?
So you know what? It was raining, and we had just walked into the building, but then it stopped, and it looked like the rain had stopped for a bit. So we're like, oh, the sun's coming out. And the next thing you know, there was a huge thunder, and then the rain started up again, and then quickly right after that, everything began happening.
And Miriam, our meteorologist, Paul Diano, has a question for you as well.
I'm concerned about that debris field and all that stuff that was flying around, seeing all these windshields blown out, and just thinking of people that might have been out there. Can you describe a little bit more of what you saw and what it was like seeing what you saw when that stuff was blowing around?
It was really, really frightening. I've never experienced anything like that. I did see a couple of like metal rods flying in the air, and I hear about somebody, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but they say somebody got picked up. They were walking on the street.
Oh my gosh.
And then just the gust of wind just took them up. And there was a metal rod that flew through a windshield, as well as a couple of tires here as well. And just nails too, because it's an industrial area. So now there's nails everywhere. There's wooden broken parts everywhere. It's crazy.
Well, I know that you are near the Royal Paper Box Company that really was hit hard, but we noticed some damage around the area. Can you give us an idea of what the mood is like around there now? We're watching this, but a lot of times when you're there, I mean, are people just stunned? Are they? Give us an idea of the mood.
Yeah, everybody's just at a loss for words. We just, are out here trying to clean up after what happened, with our brooms and stuff, but really we just don't know what to do. This is something that never happens. We're just kind of trying to check in on our neighbors and making sure everybody's okay, but you can rest assured that everybody was saying a prayer today.
Yeah,
making sure that we were okay.
Yeah, and you see the damage now, and you were talking about the rods that went through windshields. Have you seen anyone that was actually hurt? Have you seen anybody injured?
So nobody seemed to be injured, but I did see the poor FedEx guy was stuck in his truck the whole time it happened, so I hope he's okay. He drove off, though. But there was no real shelter other than his truck. But, yeah, everybody seems to be okay.
Can I ask you one question just about, I'm thinking of all the workers there, and I'm thinking about the time this hit at 11:30. Can you let us know how much busier it would have been outside if this were to have happened a half hour later during the lunch hour at 12?
Well, you know what? This is around the time we all take our lunch breaks. So you see typically a couple of food trucks pass by here, or just people walking off to the nearby restaurants. So there'd be a lot more people on the street, on their breaks, just normal day, casual, lunch break.
Yes.
But I'm so, yeah.
Yeah, you were mentioning that people were outside. And again, even if they were inside, I don't know if many people in the area actually know what to do. I mean, you know, if you grew up in this area, you learned about earthquake drills, but you don't often learn about tornado drills. Now, Paul and I both have lived in other parts of the country, and unfortunately, where there were tornadoes, and so we do know you want to go into the innermost room in your home, because most homes here don't have basements or businesses, and you want to get away from those windows. And a lot of people were outside looking to see what was happening, or as you mentioned, Miriam, you were out going to get lunch.
I myself was actually outside filming. I have a video that I have no Wi-Fi now, so I was trying to send it over to you guys, but I don't have any signal. But I was outside filming, and my dad, because I work with my dad, it's a family embroidery business, and he was like, "Come inside, this looks too crazy." I mean, like, I just didn't expect it to get any worse. I don't know. We never experienced anything like this. So sure enough, right when I went inside, I started seeing pieces of the roof just fly over to Royal Paper Box. So it was just insane. And you could look at all the people out here, and we're just at a loss for words.
Yeah,
and unreal.
And you mentioned that your family embroidery business is next door. Miriam, do you all have damage as well?
So it doesn't seem, I mean, it's too dark to tell at the moment, but, you know, we'll see tomorrow. If it continues to rain or anything like that, if there's any leaks or anything, it's hard to tell. It's the mess out here.
Yeah, and you were mentioning it's dark and you have no no internet.
No Wi-Fi.
Is there there's no electricity? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's gone. Yeah, and I checked in with a nearby company that we work with every day just to see how they're doing, because we were supposed to deliver some orders for them today, and their electricity is out as well. So we have to cut the day short, and, you know, pick up from there.
We are watching this video again of the funnel cloud going, again, that possible tornado in Montebello. We are talking to Miriam Braxton, who was working right next door to this Royal Paper Box company where we see all of this roof damage. Again, if you're just joining us, this was a reported possible tornado that hit around 11:30. You can see it just ripped off a good portion of this roof. Miriam tells us right now that there is no electricity in the area. We just saw firefighters walking around in the area. They are looking to see if there are any injuries. They're also assessing the damage to these buildings to figure out what buildings are safe. You know, we're seeing the one building there, the box company, that has so much damage, and then we're also seeing some damage next door. Miriam also working next door to these buildings and has not been able to identify any damage at her building at this point, but a lot of people were outside watching this, and
which scares the heck out of me.
Yes.
I am just so that just makes me so nervous about what we're going to find out over the next hour or so, because every piece of that roof, every piece of okay. The kind person we're speaking with said there's nails everywhere. Yes. Oh, it's just a nail. A nail at 70 miles per hour can go through your windshield. So we don't even want to talk about what that would do to somebody walking down the street. So it's the little things moving at a big speed, but we're not just talking little things.
No.
We're talking chunks of roof.
Yes.
We're talking pieces of metal. You can see what it's done to the cars around there.
Yes.
I am so incredibly grateful. This was 11:30 and not 12:30. This would be a far different story that we'd be seeing unfolding if this was during the lunch hour.
And that it's a very large, probably well-constructed building that was hit. Now, our Michelle Geely is now in the area, I believe. Michelle, what can you tell us? What are you seeing?
Amy, thank you. We are at a UPS facility that was in the T-Force that was in the center of all of this, but this is where UPS trucks are parked. Sir, tell me, Ricardo Bastidas, you were in the middle of it all. What was it like?
When I got there, it was just shattering, and the tornado kicked in. Everything was just big old wind. Everything was just knocking down. It was like terrible, you know, a couple of seconds, and everything got shattered, and the power went off, and everything, you know.
So describe specifically the damage here. What broke?
Glass got broken. A couple of windows got broken, all the glass flew out, and it was you know, light damage, you know.
And where were you when this was happening?
I was really pulling in to
so you were in a truck?
Yeah, no, I was pulling in and in the parking lot.
Okay, and describe what the sky looked like, what you...
Like blue, real blue, and then it turned like, you know, it was crazy. It got crazy, you know.
And your colleagues, they have video of this?
Yeah, they got video.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
What about damage or injuries?
Oh, there was no, just like the glass got broke, no injuries, nobody got hurt, you know, everything, you know. But it was just damage, the glass was broken, the windows, you know.
And how frightening was it? Did you know that this was possibly a tornado?
And I don't really know, because we never have these, you know, here, you know, so I didn't really know about it, you know.
And how long did it last?
It lasted like about 2-3 minutes. It lasted, you know, about 2-3 minutes.
And what you were in your car, so you don't know what was happening inside of the building?
I wasn't in the car, you know.
And was your car shaking? Were things flying around?
It was just flying around. I seen like trash cans flying around, you know, the trash, the dumpsters and everything, you know. So it got pretty ugly, you know.
What's everybody doing now?
Well, we're just waiting. The power went off, and now we're just waiting, you know, to get further notice of what's gonna happen, you know. So.
All right, let's get a hold of that video so we can bring that to you, Amy. We just got to the scene, so we're running into the area here to try and get video for you of the damage when we bumped into Ricardo, so we wanted to bring it to you as quickly as we could. We also saw a gentleman down the street who says that he was inside of his office when he heard the wind and saw this very, very dark sky. He said that he just watched it go by. No damage in particular to his building. It's a little bit farther down the road here, and that's where we're headed to capture some of those images.
Michelle, I'm hoping you can hear me. It's Paul Diano back at the station. I know you might not be in the best position yet, but I'm just wondering about that debris field and what, you know, those pieces of roof and et cetera that came down as a result of this. Do you see any of that where you are, or are you not in the best spot yet?
Not yet. We haven't made it that far, Paul, down the street, but what I did see when I just walked into this driveway here is a street sign ripped out of the ground. So it's a metal sign that's just laying down cattywampus in the middle of the street. So it was the force of this wind ripped this sign. And granted, it's been raining a lot, so the ground is saturated, but that was, one interesting image that I've seen so far. But we're trying to make our way a couple of blocks down. Unfortunately, Montebello PD has a strict roadblock up, so we had to just leave our truck down the street and walk in, and so we're hiking in to try and get some of that damage for you guys.
All right, Michelle, we know that you want to go get some of this for us, because we do want to see it as soon as you can get that back to us. We've been talking to a lot of people. We want to update our viewers right now. What we have learned so far is that there are no injuries reported from what is now being called a possible tornado that touched down in Montebello right around 11:30 in this industrial area, ripping off a good portion of the roof of this Royal Paper Box Company there. We were talking to Michael Chi from Montebello, who says that the sky got very dark and that the rain was very heavy and wind was really whipping. We have been receiving some video into our station where you can see the funnel clouds. You can see large pieces of debris just flying up into the air. This is off of that roof of that large industrial building there. And we have crews now on the scene. We also know that the National Weather Service has sent in their crews. They are investigating to find out if, in fact, this was a tornado. But we do see a lot of damage. We also know that there was a tornado warning that happened last night in Ventura County. Paul Diano, meteorologist Paul Diano, was talking about the fact that there have been 3 tornadoes reported. And you're saying that this might be the 3rd or the 4th since
2007. Great memory, yes. We are looking at the likelihood. We'll say possible tornado until it's confirmed. Let's just move it forward a little bit. It's a likely tornado. We've had 3 recorded before today in Los Angeles County since 2007. All of them have been of the F0 variety. That really doesn't matter in a highly populated area. And we are now looking at the radar image of that cell, which moved right over Montebello, between there and Belvedere Gardens, just east of the 710, just south of the 10. It passed over Monterey Park, but this thing was only on the ground, I'd say, for 20 or 30 seconds. And then it raced off to the north and east toward El Monte. So if you're not familiar with this area, and Los Angeles is a big area, where are we? We're east of downtown. We're right over Montebello, just to the north of Commerce, just to the east of Belvedere Gardens. This occurred about 11:30, so about an hour and 15 minutes ago. There were no tornado watches or warnings. As a matter of fact, the warning that we got last night that woke a lot of people up or shocked them at about 8:19, that was the first March tornado warning for the entire Los Angeles area since 2014. So it's been about a decade since we even had a warning, which is not a confirmed tornado, it's just the possibility. Now, 18 hours later, we have what will likely be an actual tornado. Two separate events. Just shows you just how weird our weather has been.
Yes.
That we are now showing you video. This is not Oklahoma. This is not Missouri. This is not Illinois or Kentucky. That is damage, significant damage, from a likely tornado that just hit Los Angeles 75 minutes ago.
Yeah, and when you look at this damage, Paul, I mean, this is a huge industrial building. And you can only imagine if this had hit perhaps a mobile home or a small wooden type home, the damage that we would see. But we're still seeing a lot of damage on this rooftop. All of these metal pipes, we've seen large metal poles. We were talking to Miriam Braxton a short time ago. She was talking about metal poles going through windshields. We're seeing, you know, all of the debris just thrown so far. Just gives you really a good sense of just how fast this wind was going. And as you mentioned, Paul, you thought it maybe touched down for only about 30 seconds?
It doesn't have to be on the ground for that long. And just looking at the length of damage, which looks to be a couple hundred yards, that would tell me, 30 seconds or a minute. Oh, only 30 seconds. You get 70-mile-an-hour winds for 30 seconds, you're moving a bunch of stuff. And thinking of an industrial area, not everything's locked down. Like when you build a house, everything's kind of intact, except maybe your furniture outside. This is an industrial area. You got pieces of metal and tubes and wood and stuff you're working on. It's all just sitting outside. You introduce a 70 or 80 mile per hour wind into that environment, you got stuff blowing everywhere.
And we did see a little earlier, Paul, a truck that had been one of the big rigs toppled over. And when you look at these roofs, I mean, there are just gaping holes inside these large buildings. And so far, we have not heard of any injuries, which is really remarkable because we've been talking about the fact that here in Southern California, most people are not aware that we can even have a tornado in this area. And so curiosity gets them to step outside. A lot of people were shooting video. We've been able to show you some of that video, but they had no idea what was happening. But
look at that one guy right there trying to fix the back of his car.
Exactly.
Think about how much force has to be in the atmosphere and with the wind to take out. I mean, you could hit a windshield really hard and you're not doing a thing. Almost every single one of the cars in that particular parking lot has a front windshield or rear windshield which blew out.
Yes.
Think of that
Yes.
force to just take out a windshield, but not one, almost everyone.
yes, and so much debris that was just hitting those cars as well. I mean, it's just a large just debris area where there's just so much because these large pieces of this roof just thrown across the parking lot into cars. We're hearing
Look at that big piece of wood right there
yeah,
next to
right
that gentleman. That was on the roof an hour and a half ago. That flew through the air to get from attached to the roof, probably by like with 50 nails. Now it's down in the middle of the parking lot.
And we were hearing from Miriam that lunchtime is 11:30, so a lot of people were out. They knew it was raining, they knew it was windy, but they had no idea that a tornado was about to touch down. Possible tornado. We got to make sure that we keep that clear. It is possible tornado that hit Montebello just before 11:30 here, doing quite some damage. We're seeing those firefighters out. They are searching, looking for any victims that may have been hurt during this. They're also checking for damage and whether or not these buildings are stable. But again, that is the Royal Paper Box Company. It's been around for about 40 years now, and they work on folded packaging boxes, and been around for a long time. Something tells me they never expected to have a tornado touch down on that large building. I was trying to see the exact size of that building wall. I was not able to find that. I was trying to do some Googling just to see how big that building is, but certainly.
Look at that right there. Look at on top left of KCAL, just whatever that temporary cover is. Ironically, probably erected because of the rain. and then now it got blown over because of a tornado. Yeah, just so much loose stuff there. I mean, a lot. You know, obviously the roof was attached, and all that asphalt and wood was attached. I'm just thinking of all the stuff that appears to be in that parking lot. Hey, it's industry. You got to build stuff, and stuff before stuff is built, stuff's in pieces, and sometimes you keep the pieces outside. And you weren't expecting a tornado. Look at the pieces of metal, the huge pieces of metal now inside the building that were likely part of the roof structure that has now caved in as a result of the winds.
It is just unbelievable. And I think that I've seen at least 3 different buildings that have that roof damage. Look like the building next door there, you can see there on the right of your screen. And then again, over to the side there. We do have our Michelle Geely on the ground in this area. She was off trying to gather some more information for us. Michelle, what have you been able to uncover?
Well, I want to step aside, Amy, and show you some of the damage that we're now finding as we walk a block farther than we were just a few minutes or so ago. Look through Nikki's Sports. You can see the roof is caved in and all of these wires and pipes and infrastructure dangling in. And as I look down onto the floor, I see all the ceiling tiles and everything that is just kind of caved in on this structure. And then, Tim Kimball, if you can show in the foreground here this wrought iron gate. This is a rolling gate for this business here at 1200 Vale. It's just been ripped off its track here. And then another piece of metal and wood that the people who work here say came flying off the roof. Now, Eduardo works in one of the adjacent offices. Describe for me what you've been going through here. What was this like?
It was pretty crazy. So we were just inside working, and then we hear the roof going up and down. We thought it was an earthquake. They started screaming earthquake, and then the power just went out, and then everyone started running. One of my coworkers came out. He saw it was like a tornado, so we ran back in. We went to this room that's kind of covered. Finally, when it passed, we all came out. Some of the cars were damaged. The trash cans were moved. The cars are going up and down. Yeah, it was pretty scary. A lot of people were scared. Some people were crying. Everyone called their families, and yeah, a whole bunch of stuff happened. The roof came down, water was leaking from everywhere. It was just really crazy.
I mean, this must be a very surreal experience. I'm a Californian. I trust you may be born and raised here, and we don't experience these things.
Yeah, no, it was pretty crazy. I mean, I thought it was an earthquake. At first, I thought it was a breeze just moving it, and then they started screaming earthquake, so I was like, okay, it's an earthquake. And then they told me it was a tornado. It was like, oh, that's pretty crazy. You know, it never happens here. And then I started seeing the videos and stuff. My boss has a video, and he showed me it. I was like, oh, that's really crazy. And then we started checking all the cars, checking everything, got everyone out, and yeah, make sure everyone was okay.
Okay, as far as injuries, everyone is safe and uninjured?
Yeah, from our company, everyone came out good. I know from, I think the company on the other side, someone was, I think they were closing a door at the time, and it fell on their head. So the ambulance came, they had to take him.
Okay, and that's the building behind you here?
Yeah, I believe there was a building behind.
So one of these big garage type doors?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, because if you look to the other side, their door, this one, Nikki Sports, it ripped off. It ripped off, caved in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, we have some video that we just got a few minutes or so ago. I don't know, Amy, if you've been able to see it, but you can really see that funnel. The video that you're referring to, is that what you see as well?
Yeah, I saw a video that they recently uploaded, but my boss showed me one that when he came outside, I think it was around that area. He took it, and you can see it too twisting and then getting all the stuff up from the roofs. Yeah.
There is so much damage. I mean, have you guys even attempted to move? I see up on the roof there, you've got, he's moving some pallets. What's going on?
Yeah, so we have these big like glass windows that we have to, that cover. And it's like a direct, like there's nothing covering, it's just that window. And it like brought it up. They're made out of iron and glass. It was so strong that it brought it up and it broke it. So now we have to get pallets, as you can see right there. He's getting pallets, and then we're gonna put a tarp over it. That way the rain doesn't cave it in and everything.
The metal you're referring to, is this it here in the parking lot?
No, it's a thicker metal. That is part of that roof, but the windows are made of a thicker metal. It's like a metal, and it has like 4 windows on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're safe, and long cleanup ahead, and certainly some jangled nerves here.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking, but we'll figure it out.
Okay. Thank you. So you guys, every few steps we take, we see more amazing pictures here. So we're just going to keep walking down the road and showing you what we see. And I hope you were able to catch a glimpse of that video that we got just a few minutes or so ago, where you really see that dark funnel and all of this debris flying through the air. Very, very incredible. The other thing, just about a block down Vale here, there is a high school. It's called Vale School or Vale High School, and I shouted out as I ran by to some of the people standing out front, as security guard and others, to make sure that everyone was okay, students and the like, and they said no injuries there. So we'll continue to capture the news here and bring it to you as soon as we get it. Amy?
And Michelle, you're hearing there from that gentleman that you were just interviewing that there was at least one injury, that the man was hit in the head by that door and was taken away by an ambulance. He did in fact have a head injury. But I also find it very interesting that the people at his work thought that this was actually an earthquake, because that is what we're used to here in Southern California.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought? And I know I was listening to Paul on the way here from Orange County that he believes this is a tornado. I think that was the last thing I heard him say, but I know these things need to be confirmed with National Weather Service and other weather people. But yes, you're absolutely right. We are not thinking about tornadoes. We're thinking about earthquakes here in Southern California. So quite a shock, but fortunately, at least for these folks here, there were not any injuries, but lots and lots of damage. So we're going to run around the corner and see if we can get some more pictures there for you of that scene that he was describing, of that big door that ripped off and injured that worker.
Well, and Michelle, I do want to mention that we are now showing that video that you were talking about, where you could see that large dark funnel just spewing up all of that debris. We have seen a couple of different angles of this, and it is just, it's just hard to believe that this is Southern California, what we're seeing, this wild weather. And again, we are still waiting to be confirmed that in fact it was a tornado. Now, we do know that the National Weather Service has sent out a crew to Carpinteria to check on the situation there. Last night, there were reports of a possible tornado there. And they're trying to assess the damage of a mobile home park and determine if the cause was in fact from a possible landspout tornado. But that was last night in Carpinteria. Of course, we had the warnings, the tornado warnings in Ventura County. Today in the Montebello area, no warnings, but people said that it was raining very hard, very dark, and the wind was really whipping, Paul. Although, again, most of them were thinking earthquake, right, not tornado.
And an excellent question to ask is, okay, obviously this is going to turn out to be a tornado, not confirmed yet, but we'll go ahead and just lean in that direction. Damage is damage. We saw the video. Why was there no tornado warning? And the answer to this is that the setup in the atmosphere to get a tornado today is such that if it's going to happen, you have winds from differing directions converging in one spot. It's happening, I don't want to say instantaneously, but it's happening almost instantaneously, to the point that over in Oklahoma or Indiana, where you would see a signature where things are all starting to come together, you almost get some advance warning. This type of system does not offer that type of advance warning. This thing spun up and got out of there in less than a minute. There was no lead time. There was nothing to warn until there was a tornado, and then by then it's obviously too late. So I don't want there to be blame. Why did we not hear about this? Or why was there no tornado warning? This particular setup does not lend itself to getting 5 minutes or 10 minutes of lead time. This whipped up. You got the tornado super quickly, or you got the very strong vortex super quickly, whatever you want to call it, it's a tornado. And then it moved out. So that now we move forward through the afternoon. Could this happen again somewhere in Los Angeles? This storm will gradually get weaker as the day progresses, but we can't rule out that, hey, if this happened at 11:30 in Montebello, why couldn't it happen at 4:30 in the afternoon somewhere else? It's the same storm. The storm hasn't left. So I can't sit here and say this is going to be a one and done event. It likely will, but here we are. So I can't guarantee that.
And it just really, I mean, when you see the damage that has been done in this area, we had been talking to folks earlier in the city of Montebello, as well as people that were working in the area, and we did finally hear from one person that there was at least one injury. One man was taken away by ambulance after a door flew back down and hit him in the head. We're hoping that that gentleman is okay. But when you look at this damage in the area, in the parking lot, all of these cars, all of the large pieces of debris that have flown off of this large industrial building, it is remarkable that we've only heard of one injury so far. Again, this happening at 11:30 in the morning when a lot of the folks in this industrial area were actually taking their lunch. So a lot of people were out going to get food, but we have heard that the sky was very dark, that the wind was very intense, and the rain was really coming down. And
interesting, something we just had from a wide shot there. Can we zoom out the camera on the chopper again? That's great damage, but can we zoom out? Okay, we're just going to go with what we see on the chopper. When we get a wider shot, Amy, what we're going to see is we're going to see a line of damage. You can see a portion of one roof right there, and then connect that to the next part. And if you continued that line forward, that's where the damage is, but immediately to the left and to the right, there's not. That is further evidence that this was likely not straight line winds, because straight line winds would be stuffed down everywhere. If it's a vortex or a tornado, you get a path, and you get an area where there's a lot of damage right next to a spot where sometimes there's not anything moved at all. And if we get a wider shot of the chopper once again, you can almost draw a straight line across this industrial area. Look at the corner of that one building. Draw a line to the right, look at that water tower on top that's damaged, and continue to the right, and you can see a straight line of damage directly across this industrial area, which, if we needed further clarification aside from the cell phone video, that might be it.
Yes, and we are still looking at all of this damage in this parking lot. Again, this was right next to the Royal Paper Box Company, which has been around since 1940. And just to see this large building experience so much damage, and some of the buildings next door as well. Also, I think Paul, our producer, is telling me that we do have the video now from yesterday in the Sandpiper Village area in Carpinteria. That was during the storm wind event that happened yesterday. You see here.
Similar, doesn't it?
Very similar, very similar. Now, the National Weather Service in Los Angeles says that a survey team is heading to the Carpinteria area today to assess the damage of that mobile home park and determine if the cause was from a possible landspout tornado. And, you know, we had the warnings last night.
Right.
You know, and I think that for a lot of people, you know, we're seeing someone get that video and then you can kind of see them crunch down. People here just don't know that when one of these warnings happens, you do want to get into the innermost room in your home, away from windows. A lot of times that's a bathroom, something that doesn't have a window. And you do want to take cover. You want to take this very seriously. You know, we are grateful that there is video, that people did get video, but it is very dangerous to be outside. However, we understand that people did not know that this was a tornado that was happening, and they were going out for lunch. They knew it was raining, and then all of a sudden, everything changed, and they saw this funnel and all of that debris whipping around, Paul.
And you're onto something there about being inside. Rule number one, if you can do nothing else, get inside.
Yes.
Rule number two, get away from windows. Why? Because we just saw all of that debris from, look at that big piece of shingle that guy just picked up. The worker there cleaning up. Think of that thing flying in the air at 70 miles per hour. You don't want to be near a window because that can come through a window, and then now the glass becomes projectiles. So away from windows, the interior-most room, you would mention, is probably a half bath in your house. I would say, you know, living in other parts of the country like San Antonio and Chicago, where I've worked in Tornado Alley, you tell people to get into the basement. Well, we don't do basements here. We don't do basements in California. So the safest place doesn't exist here. Because we're not in tornado territory. Look at these pieces of metal. There's so many things to look at. These are all several 100-pound pieces of metal or wood or roofing that was ripped up like it was a tissue.
Exactly, exactly. When you see the gaping hole in these roofs, it's just unbelievable. Our Michelle Geely on the ground in the area. She's been talking to folks, and she's got someone else here now. Michelle.
You just saw those pictures from Tim Kimball of that pine tree ripped out of the ground and windows shattered. One of the men who works in that building is standing here. Describe for me what was going on, please.
I was working inside the office. All of a sudden, there was a blackout. And then outside's pretty loud. I thought it was heavy rain, and that's it. And then I was like, it's not heavy rain. It's either earthquake. I was like, it's not earthquake. It's not shaking. And then it was pretty loud. And then I was like, maybe it's a tornado. I thought my car's done. And after a few minutes, it was gone. I was like, we came out, and luckily my car was fine.
I mean, look on the fence behind you. Just look over. Pieces of the roof are in this barbed wire fence.
Yeah, it seems pretty scary.
The damage to your building, describe what you saw. Did anything cave in?
Like the roof, the ceiling, there's some type of like it chipped down, it got damaged. The warehouse was severely damaged. A lot of like things fell on the floor, and the freezer is also damaged.
Now, there was a man in the building next door, I believe, who was hit by a big door. Did you hear about that?
No.
I should mention, you guys, we're standing right under a cell here, and we're starting to get more rain. That the weather continues out in this area, Amy. It just won't let up. Now, was anyone damaged or injured, rather, at your place?
My boss had like minor injury, but he's fine right now.
So describe that. What do you mean?
Scratches, just scratches. He just got some scratches. Yeah, and then now he's fine.
Okay, so how many people were inside of your, is this your business, Koi Trading?
That's not, I'm just working there, yeah.
Okay, and how many people were inside at the time, would you estimate?
Roughly 20.
Okay.
Oh my
And
God.
so were you able to get down on the ground, or were you just kind of not knowing what to do because of just the fact that it's just so strange?
I was not knowing what to do at that time. I was like, I didn't know what's going on. I was kind of scared. We didn't hide, and then my coworkers told me, oh, we're gonna have to hide.
What are you guys doing now?
We're waiting.
Okay, we've got strong wind. Strong wind blowing through here. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, some more strong wind blowing through the area and rain. Yeah, people are now
Michelle.
coming out of their offices away from debris. Yeah, there's debris kind of flying through the air here. So people are trying to get in the middle so nothing will come down on them. That wasn't too strong, but kind of surprising. So tell me more. You guys, have most of the people gone home for the day, or they're here, or what?
We're still outside right now.
Okay.
We're over here.
Do you feel safer outside?
Right now, no. Before it was yes.
Until this big wind came, you felt, okay. Yeah, I'm hearing things blow over. I just saw something fall over there. I should mention that there are cleanup crews here. I think these are city workers with their trucks, and they are walking around the area picking up pieces of roofing material and things like that. Are you doing okay?
Yes.
It's unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what, your boss, how did he get injured? What, did something?
I think he was in a meeting. All of a sudden on the floor, he fell. He was too scared.
Are you okay?
Yeah, right now the rain.
Yeah, it's pouring. It is pouring rain here, as you can see. So we're going to continue again to make our way up and down Vail so we can bring you all the damage that we see and all the witness statements, because there are a lot of stories here to tell.
Michelle, could you have your photographer zoom in on the fence there and show those asphalt shingles literally strewn up against the fence? That's just amazing that it's doing that.
And you know, it.
Yeah, Tim, can you zoom in right here to the right and how the shingles are wedged in the
Look at that.
in the fence? I know. What does that tell us there?
We can certainly tell that there has been a lot of wind, and Michelle, we certainly don't want to discredit that gentleman that you were talking to. When that strong gust of wind came by, he was physically, visibly unnerved by it, because people have really gone through a very traumatic situation here. Tornadoes, or a possible tornado, is not something that most people see. have not experienced. We've only had 3 reported in the LA area since 2007. People have gone outside because their buildings are damaged. We must mention also that KCAL had to leave because of the strong wind that is now being reported in the area. And certainly people there trying to take shelter from all of the rain that is coming. And Paul, we've been seeing a change in the weather at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking at our radar right now, and what we're seeing is another wave of rain moving through. We've mentioned that today would be a day with breaks from the rain, followed by downpours, with more breaks, followed by more downpours. Now we have a situation where an area that just got hit by a tornado now an hour and 45. Now it's time for another round of rain to move through, so all the people outside trying to clean up are going to be dealing with gusty winds and heavy rainfall again, making a horrible situation worse.
Even
temporarily.
worse, yes. And we saw that gentleman really grab a hold of Michelle. He was physically shaken by it. We also saw some people clutching onto a large, what appeared to be like a telephone or power pole out there because, you know, they've really been rattled by this weather event, whether it is officially called a tornado. You know, it was strong winds, strong enough to rip off the roof of this large industrial building. And no matter what it's classified, it is still very scary.
And we're looking live. That's a live chopper picture, KCAL right there. That's the next cell moving in. I guess we have to look at the possibility. I'm looking at it to see if there's anything hanging low from the cloud, because that's the kind of world we're living in today. What's going on? That looks like a rain squall. That does not look like what we just saw 2 hours ago. I'm not seeing a repeat of it. Folks, this is Los Angeles, and we're scanning the sky for tornado. We're not looking over the plains of eastern Oklahoma here.
No.
We're looking to see what's coming in after a tornado just touched down in Los Angeles, California.
Very unnerving. And then we also have to mention that there was also another possible tornado that hit last night in Carpinteria. National Weather Service crews are there inspecting there, looking at the damage to determine if, in fact, it was a tornado. I can see Michelle Geely's crew there. Well, they were there, but again, they are checking to see if, in fact, that weather event in Carpinteria last night was a tornado. There were also tornado warnings in Ventura County last night. I see Michelle Geely standing by. Paul Cordell, is she ready to? She wants to speak to us. Michelle, go ahead.
Amy, I just wanted to mention when we arrived here, it's probably been, what, 20, 30 minutes? It was dry. And look at the situation now. And Paul Diano can address just how unstable our day is weather-wise. And we saw this really remarkable moment, this man who went through what we believe is a tornado inside of his office, and how frazzled all of these people certainly are after having lived through this. You know, some describe it as an earthquake, or what they thought was an earthquake. And then, you know, their roofs started ripping off and ceilings caving in. And as we're interviewing him, this huge gust of wind comes through, and he was just so frightened, you know, grabbing onto me. And it was actually a good thing, because we held each other up here. And then his colleagues who were watching him here and hugging one another as well, the firefighter just took them back into their office as this rain started really coming down here, and you know, these gusts of wind blew through. So you know, for a moment I was concerned that maybe some of these things that are loose would start flying through the air again, but the rain is now, you know, kind of tamping everything down. But I just kind of wanted to share that observation with you. And we're going to make our way again farther down the street to try and talk to more people and gather more video.
Mentioned that we were talking about it a little earlier, because he was visibly shaken when that gust of wind came through, and we saw him grab onto you, and we saw other people nearby grabbing onto those large utility poles, just hanging on, because there was no warning, and people are not expecting a tornado in Southern California. I know that there was a warning yesterday, nothing today. We're not pointing fingers. It's just that you are not expecting a tornado to hit in the Los Angeles area. There's only been 3 since 2007, and it is very frightening. A lot of people thinking it was an earthquake, but in fact, we are still waiting to hear if it was a tornado, but we do know it was a large gust of wind, strong enough to rip the roof off of a large industrial building. Michelle, you're doing a great job out there. We certainly appreciate you gathering all of this information, talking to people. We have only heard of one injury, and that was the one that you shared with us as you were talking to the first gentleman who said that one of his colleagues was injured when the door came down and hit him in the head. You haven't heard of any other injuries so far, is that correct?
Well, the gentleman who was grabbing onto me, he indicated that someone in his office also suffered some very minor scratches as a result of something that went on inside of his office when this wind blew through. So that would be 2 if we counted that. Yeah, but the first one sounds much more serious. It sounds like there was a heavy metal door that someone was attempting to close, perhaps as this wind or tornado was coming through, and the door ripped off, is what somebody said, and probably hit the person. So we need to get the latest information and stats from the fire department on injuries. But the rain is lessening a little bit, but it's pretty much cleared out the area. There were witnesses up and down the street. Now the street's practically empty. And the cleanup that was going on here also has been suspended, at least for the time being, until this weather system passes through.
And Paul, you wanted to say something else to Michelle before we let her go?
I just wanted to let Michelle know I'm looking at the radar right now, and we can bring it up full screen if we want to. Your rain is really going to decrease in about 10 minutes. I think you've already seen a little bit of a decrease. I think you're going to see that rain wrap up. We have these waves of rain moving through, and yours is moving through right now. I think you're going to see a marked decrease in about 10 minutes.
We need it. Thank you.
And the good thing here is that we're not seeing a lot of wind, still a lot of rain. You know, Paul, earlier when we were talking to, I believe it was Miriam, who told us earlier that there was some thunder and some lightning. She talked about the sky getting very dark. We also talked to Michael Chi, who said that, the wind got very intense. The rain was very intense right before.
I'm going to go back to the image on the radar. You're looking, this is live. As you're talking about that and what happened, I'm going to go back and I saved the image.
Yes, that possible tornado touching down right around 11:30 this morning. And they were just explaining to us what they were experiencing right before that funnel cloud went right over this building here. This, again, is the Royal Paper Box Company, ripping off part of that roof. And Paul, that's the image from about 11:30.
That was just before 11:30. This is the actual radar image of that cell. And our weather producer, Ilya, and I just spoke a couple minutes ago, and he brought up a good point, that in order to get the dynamics in the atmosphere to create a tornado here, which is rare, a lot of stuff's got to come together, and rarely do we have those chess pieces ready to go. You've got to have a very specific, singular spot with no other stuff around it. That's not what we're seeing on the radar now. That's exactly what you're seeing on your television screen or your smartphone. That was an individual cell that was able to harness all the energy around it to make this happen. What we're seeing move through right now is a much more defined line of storms, which you would think, oh, it's bigger. It could that actually decreases the chance of seeing a repeat of this throughout the day.
And is that part of why there are warnings and when there are not warnings, Paul, based on what is happening there?
I will come to the absolute defense of all the men and women who work at the National Weather Service everywhere. Their number one job is to keep us safe. They like to give forecasts. They love to keep us safe. So I will be their number one on television defender in any part of the country. So they rarely, if ever, miss something.
Yes.
But sometimes the pieces of the puzzle that come to a tornado or a significant weather event simply aren't seen in advance. And in this particular instance, yes, the general environment might have been conducive for it, but this particular storm whipped this up and got rid of it in like a minute or two, which does not afford the Weather Service the opportunity to warn you in advance.
Exactly.
So I will be a huge defender of them. It's always fair to question, why didn't we know? No one knew.
No one knew. And they did give us the warnings last night. When they knew, we got those warnings in Ventura County. Yes, they saw it last night. We got those warnings.
They will overwarn. They rarely underwarn. They will overwarn because I think only about, what is it? And Ilya, our weather producer standing right here, is it 20%, 15% of tornado warnings actually become tornadoes? Yes. But they want to overwarn because they don't want to miss one. Yep.
Exactly.
They don't want to be responsible. Oh, we didn't think so. No. If they see anything that they think represents rotation in a thunderstorm that could become a tornado, they're going to push that button.
Yes, and we were very surprised to get that warning last night in Ventura County. Yes. And we again have been hearing that National Weather Service crews are in Carpinteria. They are examining there, just trying to determine the damage that was done, whether or not that was a tornado. And they are also sending crews to Montebello so that they can look at the damage there to determine if it was in fact a tornado. Right now, we were still reporting that it is a possible tornado. We do know that it was a very large gust of wind. We saw video of a funnel-looking wind system there, whipping up debris from a rooftop there at the Royal Paper Box Company and just opening up a gaping hole inside of that large industrial building. We see a truck toppled over there. I mean, this was some strong wind, Paul, that came through here very quickly.
And let's talk about naming stuff. We can sometimes get into these weird arguments about, oh, was it this or was it that? We saw it with Superstorm Sandy. Was it a hurricane or not? The people that lost their house due to 90-mile-an-hour winds don't care what you called it. So what you're seeing here is significant wind damage. That's rotating. You'll hear a term that'll be thrown out a lot, landspout. Let me use this. I just thought of this example right now. A landspout and a tornado are both cakes. You're just using different ingredients. One has sugar, one doesn't. One used butter, one used margarine. Okay. They end up being the same thing. So if you hear the term landspout, that is under the umbrella, pun intended, of a tornado. The dynamics are different. It's easier to achieve. The bar might be lower to get a landspout, but to the folks who work there that are now all jumpy every time they get a gust of wind, they don't care what it's called.
No, exactly.
You know, and the piece of metal that's flown a quarter mile doesn't care what you call it. So we can get caught up in the semantics in a situation like this. That's a rotating column of air.
Yes.
Most third graders know what we want to call that. You know, we'll get a confirmation from the Weather Service, and they have to do their job. But you know, it passes the eye test.
Yes, yes, and that's the thing. You know, everyone's got their cell phones; they're taking video, and
which actually
it does
helps
help.
them. Site surveys used to be done in the 1950s when you just had, when Farmer Ted would tell you what he saw from 3 days ago.
Yes.
Now you've got 19 different angles of the same thing.
Exactly, exactly. And whatever, as you said, it is called, it is definitely scary. We saw the rattled nerves out there with the folks that Michelle Geely was speaking with when that large gust of wind came back again. He immediately grabbed a hold of her. We saw some of the other people out there grabbing hold to a large utility pole, just, you know, hanging on. They're frightened. This is something that we do not see. Paul, you've been mentioning there's only been 3 since 2007 in the LA area.
And we look back, there's a wonderful website that categorizes these things, and I'm thankful that they have this. Los Angeles County, not meaning to exclude you, Orange County, Ventura County, San Bernardino, LA County, March, for the month of March, this is the first tornado, if it turns out to be one, since 1992.
Wow.
So we've had a number. It's interesting. August, September might be remnants of a tropical system. December, typically the storms are a little bit stronger, more dynamics. By the time you hit March, usually things are pretty good. We're not expecting all this rain either, and we're getting all the rain. So first one since 1992 in the month of March in Los Angeles County, if it verifies.
Okay. And, you know, we've been talking about the experience that Michelle Geely had while she was out there. She's been talking to people who witnessed the wind event. This is a UPS worker, Ricardo Bastidas, who told us what it was like to be inside the office when it happened. Let's listen in.
All of a sudden, there was a blackout. And then outside's pretty loud. I thought it was heavy rain, and that's it. And then I was like, it's not heavy rain. It's either earthquake I was like, it's not earthquake, it's not shaking. And then it was pretty loud. And then I was like, maybe it's a tornado. What's going on? I was kind of scared. We didn't hide. And then my coworkers told me, oh, we're going to have to hide.
Okay. What are you guys doing now?
We're waiting.
Okay, we got strong wind blowing through here. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is that moment again that we've been talking about. You know, you don't want to make light of people's feelings. He was visibly frightened because, you know, he just went through something that is very scary. You know, I think we're a little more prepared for an earthquake, but a tornado or these large wind gusts, whether or not it's a tornado, is still very scary. When it is strong enough to rip the roof off of a large industrial building, to throw this debris around the area, damage all these
Look at
cars.
Each car
Yes.
is almost every car is missing a piece of glass.
It is amazing. Now, Michelle Geely is back with us. She's been on the ground talking to different people. Michelle, can you hear us now? All right. She has been out gathering information from people. She's been talking to people who've been through this. She talked to a gentleman who was in his truck. He experienced, you know, seeing the wind. And again, we want to mention the power is out in this area. So the people that were in these buildings, you know, it went dark. Then the next thing they know, the roof is being ripped off of their building. You can only imagine how frightening this was for anyone to experience something like this, even if you do live in the Midwest and you know about tornadoes. But in Southern California, it's not something common. And I'm hearing, Michelle, you are there now?
Yes, Amy, thank you. I apologize. We've got some weather issues that are impacting our cell phones here. James Park is here, and his colleague and co-worker was injured. This door or gate, metal structure there, and he's going to explain what happened. He is at the hospital and said to be doing okay, he believes, but he can't get his car out at the moment to get to the hospital. Again, James, thank you for your time. Please describe what happened.
Well, all of a sudden, you know, it was windy, and then just tornado just popped up, and it was so windy, like everything was flying. And well, I was in the front in the office area, so I don't know the situation at the back. But when I talked to the employee, you know, he was telling me that, you know, that we have a two-sided dock door, and then one just flew towards the ceiling, and the other one he was kind of like holding it up, and then he hurt his back and minor injury on the head. So we don't know we don't know how serious it was. So, you know, we had to send him to the hospital, you know, an ambulance, and I'm trying to go there, but I can't pull out my car. So I'm just waiting for the authorization from the officials to give me an okay sign to go.
Okay, I understand, and I'm so sorry about your employee. Now, as I glance in, when I
could see that, you know, do you see the door?
Yeah, it looks like the door is. Did it fly up into the ceiling here? There's all kinds of things that are ripped from the ceiling.
Yes.
And where is the second half of the door?
Well, the second half is out here. You could see it, and then the top part is just flew up the ceiling area.
And what other damage do you have? I've seen people up on the roof of this building.
Did they allow you back in?
Well, the damage is, I don't know, because, you know, they won't let us get into the property, so I really don't know. But as you can see inside, you know, the side wall has been collapsed, so a lot of our inventory has been falling to the other side. And in the front, you know, it's just chaos.
What do you make of this day?
I don't know. I just want to go home. But I can't, obviously. But they're trying to fix it by today. But let's see what happens.
Okay, Mr. Park, thank you, and I hope your employee is doing okay.
I hope so,
Which
too.
hospital?
They said at Beverly Hospital, so I'm trying to go there as soon as they let me go. So
Taken by ambulance, your employee?
yes,
Okay. And how long has that person, it's a man, how long has he worked here?
More than 10 years.
Okay, so you know him well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the damage assessment continues here in Montebello, and the rain has stopped for the most part. But everywhere we look, there's a story to tell. Every person we talk to has something to share with us. So, Amy, we're just continuing to make our way through this commercial district. Assessing the damage and finding new tidbits. You know, it seems every building we visit. So we're going to just continue on down the path and bring you as many of these stories as we can. But this is the site of that one injury that we've been hearing about for the last hour or so. And it appears that he is doing okay, this employee, but he was taken to the hospital, as you heard his boss say.
Okay. All right, Michelle, thank you so much. We'll let you gather some more information. And I want to mention to our viewers that we were just showing some video. If you've been with us for a while, we did talk to Miriam Braxton. She was working at a family embroidery business that was next door to the Royal Paper Box Company. We talked to her a little earlier. She was telling us that she had gotten some video. She and some colleagues were out getting lunch. This is her video that you're seeing now on the right side of your screen. If you may remember, she was talking about she got some video. This is the video. I don't know if I can let you hear some of that video. Can we hear it? No, we cannot hear it right now. But I have been told that you could hear Miriam in this video praying, physically scared, of course, because of what she was witnessing. The debris that was flying.
Look at those pieces coming down.
They're huge.
Look at that. Look at that.
Wow, hitting that building like that. And
that's intense.
It is very intense and very frightening. I mean,
the wind isn't the damaging part.
Exactly.
It's the stuff being blown around in the wind. That's the damaging part. And I'd say an industrial area is one of the worst places because how many loose, unsecured, large objects are literally flying around in the air. Those are pieces of metal. Those are pieces of wood. Those are like the pieces of wood that like you put your Christmas tree on. That's how big, flying around at 70, 80 miles an hour or stronger. This may turn out to be one of the stronger tornadoes LA has had. Most are F0. They go from 0 to 5. This might not be an F0. This might be an EF2.
And these large pieces of debris just flying around like they're little pieces of small things like birds, but these are huge pieces, very strong wind. And again, this is video from Miriam Braxton. She was working next to the other business there that you can see on the left side where that rooftop has been just ripped off. She says that lunchtime in the area for a lot of folks is right around 11:30, which is exactly when this was happening. And she was talking about hearing a large bang, and it was probably some debris hitting something large. And just, you know, we've been hearing from people who thought it was an earthquake because they saw the cars moving, they felt the movement, then they realized, wait a minute, it's not really shaking, this isn't an earthquake. Looked outside, saw the wind, saw the debris, and realized this is probably a tornado.
This goes to show the part of the country that we live in that's the instinct. The instinct is earthquake. Why?
Exactly.
Because 99.9% of the time it is. And today was that 0.1%.
Yeah, we're looking at more of Miriam's video. You can just see that dark cloud there and debris. You see these, looks like almost like a 2x4 there on the sidewalk. She is panning around, just showing the sky. You can see some blue sky, some very dark sky. You know, and that's what we're doing these days, looking around for funnel clouds. And it's just hard to imagine that that's what we're looking for in Southern California. We do not experience this often, but again, we did have a possible tornado yesterday in the Carpinteria area. There are folks from the National Weather Service investigating the damage there to see, and they are also making their way to Montebello to determine exactly. There are a lot of things that they have to check off the list to actually confirm that it was in fact a tornado, but we do know that wind was very strong. No matter what you call it, it was strong enough to rip the roof off of this large industrial building. Yeah, wind is wind. Was it a strong wind event? Obviously. Was it rotating? We have the video. Is there a line of damage? We can see it from the chopper. So, I mean, the Weather Service meteorologists are the most highly trained people in our industry, and they need to do their job. They're the ones who get to confirm it.
we can also do our own site survey live on television, which we have been doing, and I don't see a scenario where this wasn't. It's not my job to confirm it. I'll leave that to the good folks. Their office is out in Oxnard, the wonderful meteorologists there. They're going to do their job. It seems like we're heading toward a pretty basic conclusion here, that it was.
Yes, and we want to check back in with Michelle Geely. She has been really roaming up and down the street here in this area talking to folks. Michelle, you've got someone else?
Yes, I do. And while I'm speaking with Doyle House, who's worked in this area for 39 years, I'm going to have Tim Kimball swing over to the side of one of the buildings, and you see these black marks. Okay, so Doyle, start talking about this.
Hi, my name's Doyle House. Around 11:30, we had what was like hard hailstorm, and then all of a sudden the winds just picked up, and as I came out my back alley to get my wife out of a trailer we're living in, I saw what looked like a waterspout kind of tornado twister that was about 30 feet wide that just came through and was just bouncing like a top in between, picking up debris. The whole sky looked like a dump.
Wow. And I'm looking at these marks on the building.
Marks on the building.
Oh my gosh.
I was on the outskirt of the tornado, and the center point went straight across the street, and when we cross the street, this next alley is just destroyed. You'll see where it got stuck inside of it, twisting against the building tops.
Where were you seeking shelter?
Basically, we were just wherever you could grab a hold of and kind of hold on. At first we didn't know what it was, so we're all outside thinking normal. You don't think of anything like this. And all the damaged doors were flying off hinges, and it was just unbelievable.
What were you grabbing onto, and your wife? What was she grabbing onto?
I work in the building, and in the alley, my wife were staying in our trailer, and I was trying to get her out of the trailer, and it picked us up and threw us against the fence as we were trying to get inside for shelter.
And did you just stay against the fence the entire storm?
No, we were able to crawl along the fence to get inside the building.
And what was going through your mind, if you were even able to think at that moment?
Well, you just don't think Southern California having this storm like this, you know.
And tell me more about the damage. When I look at the white building, it really illustrates how much it was like a pinball bouncing off the
debris, what you see, but if you get a shot of their alley, you think it's a movie. It's a movie. There's vans that are destroyed, pallets that are 20 feet 20 pounds are even just thrown around like splinters.
Unbelievable. So now what are you doing? Are you cleaning up?
We're cleaning up. The property manager has people, we're tarping stuff, fixing doors, and just luckily no one got killed. We had one person get hurt, but he's doing okay.
And are you going to be in that trailer tonight?
No, we're going to a hotel, but yes, so.
I'm glad you and your wife are okay, and all of your colleagues and friends here. All right, we're going to take your advice and get to that alley. All right, thank you. And as we said, Amy, it just every few steps we take. You know, a lot of times as a reporter, when we try to get people to talk to us, they're shy about it, or they say, oh, no, go talk to somebody else, or I don't want to be on TV. Not today. Pretty much everybody we cross paths with is willing to share this weather anomaly, this craziness that happened here in Montebello. Nearly everyone wants to tell us what they lived through here. It is really incredible. So I'm going to say it again. We're just going to keep walking through this industrial park and find more of the damage and tell more of the stories.
Michelle, I'd love to see that alley, because what happens when you have that debris flying around, it will come down sometimes in one specific spot, and if you get a narrow area where all of that debris lands, at a significant speed, that could be one spot where, yeah, some significant stuff happened more than other places. You could even see it on the wall behind you. That's where all of the asphalt shingles banged up against that building and left those marks. Those marks weren't there a couple hours ago.
Well, and I noticed those marks a little earlier, and I was thinking, could that be? And I didn't want to say it too soon because I thought, well, is it really possible? But now we're hearing from Doyle that things were hitting that wall, and we're so glad that he and his wife are both okay, because we often talk about tornadoes hitting in areas where people live in mobile homes. And if his wife was in that trailer, it's a very lucky thing that that trailer did not get lifted up. We're seeing what damage was done to this huge industrial building, so we know what could have happened to a trailer that she was in, and the fact that they were both blown into this fence and basically had to crawl to safety.
Just think, everything that was on that roof is now somewhere else. It didn't disappear. It's now in pieces somewhere else, and it flew there at a significant rate of speed.
And we have seen a lot of that debris in video that Miriam Braxton sent us. Also, that first look here, you see all of that debris. It looks like small pieces, but we know it's very large. Those pieces are large and could do a lot of damage. Again, we've only heard of one injury where someone was taken by ambulance. That was a gentleman who was hit in the head who worked with James Park. We also heard about another gentleman that had some scratches. He is said to be okay, but we do know that the other gentleman was taken by ambulance to the hospital, and his friend hearing that he is doing okay. But it really is remarkable that there are not more injuries when you see this type of damage.
It's people use this word perhaps too often. If all we get from this is a couple minor injuries, this would be one of the larger weather miracles that we've had in this area. That is a significant amount of wind, and those are life-threatening. Each piece of debris is life-threatening. And if only a couple people got injured, we should be so thankful for that. You can rebuild buildings, you can't rebuild lives.
Absolutely, and we're just watching this video here is from Miriam, and you could just see the debris, just wow. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was skeptical when I first got the word in my ear. Could be some structural damage here. The default setting in Southern California is straight line winds. It's not why? Because it doesn't happen here. So the default setting was okay. And then I heard there's going to be video. And you see it. It took two. Oh my gosh, that is. Then my default setting was, is this video from somewhere else?
Exactly.
No, this is here. This happened here. Here being Los Angeles. That is rotating wind, and we all know what to call it.
In Montebello, exactly. Now, one man was inside a business with coworkers when the wind whipped up. He described how they first ran outside just to quickly run back in. Let's listen.
It was pretty crazy. So we were just inside working, and then we hear the roof going up and down. We thought it was an earthquake. They started screaming earthquake, and then the power just went out, and then everyone started running. One of my coworkers came out. He saw it was like a tornado. So we ran back in, we went to this room that's kind of covered. Finally, when it passed, we all came out. Some of the cars were damaged. The trash cans were moved. The cars are going up and down. Yeah, it was pretty scary. A lot of people were scared. Some people were crying.
And I'm sure there were a lot of people very scared. And we did see some of those people when Michelle was talking to one gentleman and that wind gust came along. He grabbed onto her. He was physically shaken. We saw some other people grabbing onto power poles. And if you are just joining us for this extended version of KCAL News, what we are talking about right now is a large gust of wind, possibly a tornado that came through around 11:30 this morning. It hit the Royal Paper Box Company, ripping off a large portion of the roof. You can see a lot of the debris that came down, damaging a lot of cars. You see the large metal pole. It not only ripped the roof off of this building, but also took off parts of the roof at businesses nearby. A lot of damage out here. There are reports of at least 2 injuries. One was hit by a door, another had some scratches. Only one person that we've heard of so far that has been taken away by ambulance. And we do have Michelle Geely, who is back on the ground as we watch these people surveying the damage there. Michelle.
Doyle House, who's worked in this area for 39 years and was in the middle of all of it, is taking us on a little tour. And we've walked across the street from where we were just a moment or so ago, right off of Vail, behind Koi Koi Trading Incorporated. And this is what he was describing a few moments ago, how it was almost like
This tornado, what it was, it stuck across the street from my building into this alley, and this is where it just bounced off the wall like a top, just picking up pallets, 20-pound pallets flying in the air and just bouncing in this corner.
Yeah, what we're seeing here, Tim Kimball showing you these pallets that are all just shredded, the metal doors that have come down, the van. I wonder what hit this van, all the debris.
All the debris from the rooftops and skylights were flying through here.
And Doyle, let's walk over to the wall. We're marveling at these black marks on this clean white wall, this building wall, and this is the roofing material that was flying through the air and just skidding across, making marks on the wall, right?
Yes, because they just painted this whole industrial building last month, and you would never believed it now.
So the pieces of asphalt, walk with me, Doyle, the pieces of asphalt skidding across this pristine white wall and making all these marks, right?
Correct.
Showing the force of the wind. And look at on the end here.
And all the roofing from across the street of 1212 South Vail is all across the street on Date Street in this alley. It looked like just a pinwheel just throwing stuff all over the place.
And when we see these video clips, we see what looks like just little bits of debris. But when we see it up close, these are big pieces here. And I know Paul was talking earlier about these things hitting a person. You mentioned that you and your wife were holding onto a fence. Were things hitting you as they were flying through the air?
Mostly in our alley was just cardboard and stuff, but the debris had already came over us at that point.
Look at this wall here. Tim, Tim is getting a really good shot there. The door missing there. But look at this wall, how black it is with, it looks like the inside of a chimney or something.
Yes, it's just, you would have never thought in California you'd ever see this.
This looks like a fan or something that is on a rooftop, right?
For the rooftops.
Okay, air vents. And here I hear drops coming off the roof, water coming off the roof. This is some sort of a dumpster that's been tipped over. All of this, this is asphalt. Here, look at these pieces. And just a piece this large is heavy, right?
Correct.
And look at the damage. It's ripped the paint off in some cases.
Correct. Like I say, there was a lot of us all out in the alley, and only one person got hit, but that was by a door, and I'm surprised no one got hit by the flying debris. You could not even see across the street. It was that much debris blowing that you would never believed it.
And what's kind of eerie here is it's so quiet now.
It is.
There's no one. We're the only three people standing behind this building.
Correct. When the storm hit, we had a hard hailstorm for like 10 minutes, and then it just broke loose.
It's going to take weeks and weeks to clean all this up.
Correct. And like say, most of this debris that came off is from buildings that are here in Montebello that are 40, 50-year-old buildings.
But you said that this white building here was freshly painted.
It was freshly painted last month.
Wow, look at it now. So another glimpse for you, Amy and Paul, of the damage from this ferocious wind that came through here, and we're hearing it through Doyle's eyes and ears, right?
Correct.
And you said you're going to go to a hotel. He has a trailer here on property, but
I have a 20-foot trailer on property that we're staying in, and You would never thought this would ever happen here.
But you don't feel safe to be in that tonight.
I do, but my wife doesn't.
I get it. She's a smart woman. Okay, Amy, we'll throw it back to you.
Michelle, while we're watching you, we also are showing our viewers on the right side of our screen. This is new video that has just come into us. And I mean, this is that roof just being torn apart.
That's the stuff next to Amy right now.
Yeah, next to Michelle, making all those black marks on that wall. I mean, these are huge pieces of material that have just been ripped off of that roof and thrown against those walls. And Doyle was saying that that wall had been freshly painted only about a month ago, I think he said. And all of these pieces just leaving those black marks. It really is amazing that there were only 2 minor injuries so far and no one being hit by some of this debris, which is just...
Yeah, let's use a baseball example. If you watch a baseball game, you see Clayton Kershaw throw a fastball at 90 miles an hour, and you think, my gosh, that thing's coming at me so fast I couldn't stand in the batter's box. Every one of those pieces of debris is moving at the speed of a Clayton Kershaw fastball.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. And we can see there on the left side of your screen, a lot of that debris. They were talking about those 20-pound pallets just being thrown around and all of those large pieces off of that rooftop. Now, this is just, I mean, whatever they call it, we know that folks from the National Weather Service are on the scene. They are trying to look at the damage to determine if it was, in fact, a tornado. What we are calling it now is a possible tornado.
I'll put my head under the guillotine.
Yeah, you'll say
Let's just, you know, we can remove the word possible.
Yes.
Technically, until it's been classified, the world sees this now, and literally the world is seeing this. I'm getting texts and emails from all around the world, people that I've worked with before saying, what the heck is going on in Los Angeles? This is not normal there.
Not at all. Now, we were showing you a little earlier. We talked to Miriam Braxton earlier, and she sent us in some video. And we were showing it to you a little earlier, but this time we want to play it for you again so you can actually hear the terrifying moments. Let's listen to this video.
All the fear right now, Jesus, and we submit it to you, God. We pray for supernatural peace, God. Lord, we just pray, God, that you are just covering us from the deepest parts, God, of this building to the outside. Father, thank you for your peace right now, God. Thank you for your peace right now, God. We thank you for the control.
You can hear Miriam praying while she is shooting this video, and she talked to us. She told us how scary this was. She and some of her colleagues were out around 11:30. That's when they take their lunch break. They work at a family embroidery business that is next to the Royal Paper Box Company. And they were outside. She said that it was windy, it was raining, and then this began. And, you know, we have seen the impact, the fear from people. When Michelle Geely was talking to someone a little earlier and another gust of wind came, he physically grabbed onto her, afraid. I mean, they are dealing with some PTSD because they have been through something very frightening. I mean, this is, you know, we're watching it on video, but when you are there in person and you hear that wind and you see the debris flying and you don't know really what's happening. A lot of people said that at first they thought it was an earthquake when they started feeling that shaking, and then they realize this can't be an earthquake. This is something else. They look outside, they see the wind, they see the debris, and they say, this is a tornado. And this is very scary. This is what people are used to.
We can drop the narrative of it doesn't happen here. You want to know why? Because it just happened here in the heart of Los Angeles County. And you can imagine looking outside in Southern California and seeing several 100-pound pieces of metal flying around outside of your building, not knowing what the heck is going on.
Yes, and you were saying, Paul, that since 2007 there have been 3 reported tornadoes in LA, but those were all zero?
F0. So they're rated EF0 to EF5. EF5 are the ones you've seen. That was Oklahoma City 1999. That was Joplin 2006. Those happen once every couple of years. EF0 tornadoes are much more common. I'm going to go out on a separate limb here and say this was stronger than an EF0 tornado. I think this is going to get classified as an EF1 or an EF2. All the ones leading back to, I believe, 1998 were EF0s in Los Angeles County, and they also typically do not happen in March. This is the first March tornado in Los Angeles County since 1992. So they do happen here. They're really rare.
Yes.
They're usually really small. Often what they are, they're water spouts that hit the beach. As soon as it touches the beach, it's technically a tornado. So technically, but they dissipate 8 seconds later.
Yes.
This is perhaps not the same mechanism. Well, I didn't hear any thunder before this. I didn't see. This was not a supercell that yielded a tornado like it does 99.9% of the time in Kansas or Oklahoma. This was a different set of different set of ingredients, but it still made the cake.
Exactly.
So it's still a tornado, even if it was a landspout tornado. Remember the tornado part. And really, these people don't care.
No.
They looked outside and saw World War III outside their window.
Exactly.
So,
and looking at that video there, Paul, on the right side where you see that funnel, there's blue sky back there. Yes, clouds, but some blue sky. And, you know, oftentimes you think it's going to be this dark sky, but there's blue sky out there. And we also need to mention that there was a reported waterspout last night near Point Magoo. There are also crews from the National Weather Service going to Carpinteria, where there was another wind event. They are checking the damage to see if that was a tornado, and now they are headed to Montebello to examine the damage there. But of course, they also have video that they can look at to determine whether or not.
We're examining it right now. Yeah, next steps. Where do we go from here? One, a lot of cleanup. I'm sure we'll have 19 news crews out there to take care of that part of it. Two, let's hope and pray that the minimal injury report stays the same. Three, the Weather Service probably has meteorologists there already. They will assess the damage and give this a tornado rating. I can't see a scenario where this is not classified as a tornado. Look at what you're looking at. We're seeing it too, tornado. The question is, okay, the specifics of it. What was the rating? What were the maximum wind speeds? They'll look at the debris and the damage to try to assess that.
Absolutely. On the left side of your screen, that is part of the Royal Paper Box Company, where part of that roof has been ripped off. On the right side, this is video that has been sent in to us. That is pieces of that roof being ripped off. Again, this is in Montebello. It happened right around 11:30 this morning, and you can see all of that damage around the industrial area. You can see that wind just whipping up, ripping really that roof to shreds of a large industrial building. We've been hearing the stories. Michelle Geely is out on the ground there. She's been talking to people. So far, 2 injuries reported. One was ambulatory. The man was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. Another, someone told that they had some scratches. Of course, we have been doing an extended version of KCAL for you. We are going to have much more on this possible tornado coming up on KCAL News at 4 o'clock. For now, for meteorologist Paul Diano and Amy Johnson, we'll send you to regular programming. Boom.